Hey, what's going on? I'm making this video for anybody who is dealing with adoption, whether you're an adopted parent, an adoptee, or a family member that wants to understand what is going on with adoption, or if you're dealing with issues from an adoptee, you're like, why is this person so angry? Or you have any of these questions, like they have everything that they never would have gotten without it. You know, they could have been this, they could have been that, they could have been raised in an orphanage, but I'm giving them love and opportunities. You know, why are they so ungrateful, or why are they having all these issues? This is a video to cover that. I'm gonna make a adoption series. A little bit about myself. I am 38 years old. I was adopted around 4 years old. I just found out actually this past month, which is absolutely crazy to me. I was fostered for 4 years, from birth until 4, in my family that eventually adopted me. And they're my family, so being adopted, I was raised white in a white family, but I'm Latino, so just to get a picture of what I looked like when I was younger with my dad. Obviously, we're a little different, but that's my dad. And this video is probably gonna be one of the harder videos I make on this channel, because it's such a deep dive into my personal life. I've never really made a video about it. I did make a video on, you know, my experience being a Latino and adopted in a white family. And I just realized that after 38 years of going through this life, I have all these issues, and I've always been told how adoption is, you know, be grateful for it and count your blessings, stuff like that. But looking back over my life, every single major issue that I've had was caused not from my adoption, but from being separated from my birth mother, separated from my heritage, separated from my origins genetically, people that look like me. And we're gonna take a deep dive into that. And this first video, I want to be very clear on that. I'm gonna be talking about the problems, and then we're gonna be talking about the solutions, because it took me 38 years to figure out why I am the way I am, why I live life the way I have lived it, why I've had so many issues, given the opportunities and the love and the household that I was brought up in. I was given almost every opportunity. All the I was spoiled. I was taken care of. I was babied, probably a little too much. I was coddled. And I'm gonna take a deep dive into what is the big misunderstanding, what this society is missing. I'm adopted. I have lived this, and I didn't even know it until now, 38 years later, why I had so many issues and why I was so self-destructive. And this is coming from a person who lived it. And so I can only imagine how confusing it is and hard it is for someone on the outside to see somebody who supposedly has everything just completely kind of live a self-destructive, angry, kind of isolated lifestyle, and not be able to grow and figure things out on their own. And this is just going to be from my experience and my research. So my research has been going on for basically my entire life, but the past month and a half, I've really figured out the cause of all my root issues is my adoption / birth, being separated from my family, my biological family. And then that helped me uncover everything after that, that's basically been adding fuel to the fire and never solving the issue of my trauma and basically shit that went wrong in my life, and why I've been so kind of messed up and not be able to fix myself and grow like a normal person in a normal family and normal situations. So I just wanted to share with you all these books I've been reading. These are all adoption books, if I can get that on camera. The The books that I would recommend just right off the bat that I've learned the most things from, for parents, it's The 20 Things Adopted Kids Wish Their Adopted Parents Knew. This is invaluable. I wish my parents had this when I was born. I would say they did 90% of everything wrong that you're not supposed to do. And, you know, I paid for that. I tried to take my life about 4 different separate times. Each time I did it, you know, everybody in my family said, what's so wrong with him? He has everything, you know. This is just the misunderstanding that adopted people have, adopted families have, outsiders looking in have. It's just a misunderstanding. It's a lack of knowledge. It's nobody's fault. Unfortunately, I had to go through all this suffering to get to the point now where I can be talking about it. I feel like this is part of my purpose, why I'm here, why I'm making these videos, why I made this channel, is all the internal isolation and suffering and shit that I had to figure out on my own, problem solving in my own mind, and all the years and decades I've had to deal with this, that I've had to uncover piece by piece, one major problem at a time. And it's been extremely confusing and extremely just lonely and depressing, and I've been suicidal, like I said. So for adopted parents, this is probably the #1 book I'd recommend. Extremely helpful. It's by Sherry Eldridge. She's great. Second book for parents, I'd say The Primal Wound. This is for adoptees and parents. This is basically what blew my mind. It's not the perfect book. It's definitely something that needs to be worked on, updated. She actually made its second book that I've been reading, but it's not as good as this one. This one I definitely recommend as well. For adoptees, this one, Sherry Eldridge's second book, first or second, one of her books, but this one changed my life. I read this in the past couple of months. That was a great book. The one that I actually started on, Betty Jean Lifton, Journey of the Adopted Self. This one also blew my mind. I haven't really read all of it, but I skipped through the parts where I'm trying to learn what I'm uncovering, the problems and the solutions that I'm actually on in my life. I skip to these books. I'm actually reading this one. You can see my bookmark. Adoptees Coming of Age. That's really good. That's basically from an adoptee's perspective. Being Adopted. This one I've actually just started as well. Sort of going back and forth on these two. Coming Home to Self. This one is The Primal Wound's author. She made this second book, and I really don't like it. It's helpful in a little bit of ways, but she's not an adoptee. She's the parent of an adoptee. And the way she speaks in this book is just kind of not relatable. I wouldn't recommend it to adoptees or adopted parents. I just really feel like she's kind of taking shots at adoptees a lot of the time and speaking in a way that is not helpful to the adoptees in a lot of different points. A lot of it is helpful, but I just think it's an unnecessary book. I don't like the way she speaks in it. This is coming just from my experience. It could be somebody else's experience. I don't like it. Secret Thoughts of an Adopted Mother. This one is one that I just got in the mail. I'm kind of hesitant to read that one. My adopted mother passed away 2010, so if you can imagine how hard that one's going to be to read. Lost and Found. This one was from the 80s, I believe. I really wanted to read the information that was back in when I was born. I was born in 84, so that's been my research, man. So these videos are a deep dive into my mind, what I've been going through, what the problems are that I'm uncovering from my experience with the research, hopefully to help families out there and adoptees struggling with similar struggles. And it seems like most of the struggles and issues are same across the board. There's different levels to how much people, like the spectrum of, like, there's, man, I don't feel like any resentment or anything I'm grateful to be adopted. I'm glad I never met my birth parents. I'm happy with my life. And then there's somebody like me where I would say I'm on the end of the spectrum with my adopted parents thought I had borderline personality disorder, which is often misunderstood with the trauma, the split self, all this stuff that I've been learning. And I tried to kill myself 4 times. Very isolated, introverted, don't like talking to people, strangers. I like people, I just don't like mean people, if that makes sense. And I'm on that emotionally crazy spectrum where I'm like, I had a lot of rage and anger and just confusion, identity issues, emotional issues, psychological issues. I had a drinking issue. I was in AA for 20 years in and out. I always thought my life issue was these separate issues other than adoption. It's so confusing. So now I'm going to get into the real misunderstanding and the problem of adoption, which it's really hard to look at because I lived this for 38 years, but to finally come to the conclusion that it was 100% my birth and being separated from my biological family, my birth mother especially. So what happens is the biggest misunderstanding from adopted families is whatever reason they want to adopt, whether it be infertility, they can't have their own kids, they want to serve the not so fortunate to give these kids a better life, whatever reason it may be, they're thinking, at least from my experience, this is what my adopted parents told me, that you are going to be given a home and love and opportunity, and we're going to love this child, give them all the opportunities they would never have. And that is the outside solution to the perceived problem of, yes, we could be raised in an orphanage, we could have been in addicted families, we could have been raised in this horrible, poor family with all sorts of horrible issues, and that's going to solve the problem. Love and opportunity, a family that they would have never had, and all these things that are being gained from an outside perspective. Yes, it's a gain, but from my perspective and adoptees' perspective, this is just their family. It's not a gain. It's just like a biological child. You're born into a family. You don't get to choose it. You're not constantly second guessing as a biological child. Man, I'm really glad I wasn't born blind. I'm really glad I wasn't born with Down syndrome. I'm really glad I wasn't born in North Korea. Whatever it may be, that's not how you think. It's just your family that you're brought up in. So to put that on a kid, to say if you have any issues, why aren't you grateful? You're being ungrateful. Gratitude has nothing to do with it. If I asked you, are you grateful to not be born in poverty or whatever an issue could have been, have cancer, have a life-threatening disease, are you grateful you weren't born with that? Of course. That's a misinformation question to ask, misinformed question to ask. It's sort of like if you lost your entire family in a car wreck, you don't remember any of it, and you wake up in the hospital and all these different looking people are around you, they take you in, and you have amnesia about the whole car wreck. Your whole family died, parents, siblings, everything. And your whole family now takes you in, people you don't know, don't look like you, and they say, we're going to take you in, we're going to love you, we're going to care for you. You would be grateful, but what if I kept asking you if you had any issues and asked about your family? Like, why do I have this longing sense of grief? Like, did I have a family before this? And they were kind of lying to you and like, yeah, but don't worry about that. You should be grateful, count your blessings that you have this family now. And this is where the big misunderstanding comes, because as children, being born to these addicted families and the families of problems, that if they're wanted, whatever reason why they're given up for adoption, to say that they haven't been through something traumatic and aren't going to grow up with a sense of loss or questions about who their family is It's the same thing as if your whole family died in a car wreck and then blaming them for being ungrateful about having a sense of loss, a sense of trauma that they can't remember, and then being angry at them for wanting to ask about their family and asking why, what happened to them, why do I not look the same as you? You're telling me that I'm the same as you. And this is the problem that I was in with my family. My family, never once, I asked what race I was my entire life. And I was obviously darker skinned. And I would go home to my mom and I'd be getting bullied and asked, what race I was. And she would say that I'm American. And that would be confusing as shit to me because I'm obviously not. And I always thought that I was white growing up because my parents never told me once that I was Mexican, Hispanic, or Latino. And, it's very confusing to a child growing up. And one of the worst things that happened to me, which was not my parents' fault, but they should have been more informed, which obviously they weren't. I was moved from California, where there's a bunch of mixed race people, to Georgia, one of the most racist counties and racist people in the South. And my dad got a new job there. We moved to Georgia, and my white family, thinking that they're just going to raise me white and that race doesn't mean anything, that they don't see color, was one of the most devastating things to my self-esteem that ever happened in my life. And all these issues started happening where I was bullied, told to go back where I come from, asking my parents what race I was, and them telling me that I was, American. I'm just like them. They don't see color. And this leads to more isolation, more suicidal thoughts, and just complete devastation to any soul or mental capacity that I had. And the problem that I wish that most people could understand is there is a huge sense of loss, and you do not know why. I never knew why I felt the way I felt, why I felt so horrible about myself. And then you go into a family that looks nothing like you, and yes, it's your family, and you love them and care about them, but there's this barrier that you cannot receive the love, you cannot receive the opportunity, compounded by the fact that they're telling you that you should be grateful for this family. So the one thing I wish I could just transfer into people's minds is the sense of loss and trauma that even adoptees do not understand that they have. If you can explain to an adoptee, not even just once, just over and over, because around 4 or 5 is when I started asking about my adoption and feeling unwanted, and why didn't my mom, said I had this huge breakdown about, why didn't my mom want me? Why didn't my mom want me? And it's just like this horrible breakdown and I had. And then that was like my first experience into like figuring out that I'm different, that I'm not biologically the same. And if you can explain to your kid that there is a sense of loss, you have 2 sets of families, and that is an issue for an adoptee to have, that there's trauma, loss, and that you would want to ask about your other family too. If you were in a car wreck and your whole family died and you wanted to ask questions about them, you had amnesia, the same thing that you would want to do if you had your family that was taken from you and you don't remember anything. You would want to be explained to what happened to you, as like they do in the doctor's office. If you were in a serious wreck, don't remember anything, and through this traumatic experience, you're explained, you were in this very traumatic situation. Now I'm here to help you, and whatever questions you have, we're gonna be there for you. So that is the main part of this first video I want to get across, because if we don't understand the problem, we're not gonna understand the solution. So understanding that problem of trauma and loss, that with the baby you're getting, if you're adopted, the adoptee, what is going on internally, this can affect every single part of your life. It affected mine. I didn't want to live. I was bullied from the age of 7 when we moved to Georgia, up until all the jobs that I've had were just very shitty jobs, because I never wanted to be around people. So I never wanted to go to college, never wanted to to really do anything, because I'm like, okay, I'm just alone in this world, and nobody's like, there was no validation or understanding of what I went through, what I'm going through. So I already just felt worthless and just wrong. Like, when you are born with a belief that you're not good enough for your birth mother, you're not good enough for life, and you don't even understand that you have that belief. And I'm talking from my experience, that I had this belief and I didn't even know I had it until last month when I came to the conclusion about just studying. I took a piece of paper and I'm like, why am I still like this? Why am I still quitting everything? Why do I still not care about myself? I have a beautiful family. I have a wonderful wife and an amazing kid. And I'm like, why can I not find it? Why do other people I see are doing these normal things and they have all these issues? They go through trauma and they go through messed up things. And like, I always thought it was an addiction problem. I always thought it was an anxiety problem. I always thought it was my drinking. Like, I always thought it was bullying. All these things, because I wasn't explained about the trauma of being separated from your birth mother, your origins, your ethnicity, your genetics, being around people that look like you. I never understood it, because I was always told, be grateful, count your blessings, how dare you have any issues? You're a spoiled brat, because, my parents did spoil me. I was the youngest kid of I had two older sisters, and, my mother was really overbearing and overprotective, and whatever I had a problem, that they would kind of come to my rescue and save me, and I never had to go through anything hard. So I'm like, it just left me with a lot of issues, never being able to figure anything out by myself. And I just want to make it clear, these videos are for you, because it's really hard to talk about. So if you take anything from this video, just understand the problem, the misunderstanding, that there is a gain from an adoptee. Yes, they do get a family, they do get love, they do get opportunities. But if we do not understand the loss and the trauma, similar to a car wreck and losing your entire family, for you to understand, there is going to be zero help that you can do for this kid. And they're going to have anger issues, they're going to have grief issues, they're going to have act out, they're going to have personality issues, emotional issues, psychological issues, anything that will come from a devastating loss that's basically denied. So in the next few videos, I'm going to go over the solution. And to put it simply, the problem is trauma and loss that's not understood. The solution is validation, acknowledgement, research, understanding, open communication, and basically any need that the adoptee has, which will come up about their family, about their origins, about their birth mother, about why they were given up for adoption, why they weren't wanted, is massive to helping them grow as a person. If you are denied this, it's like denying your kid water. And I know most parents out there would never deny their kids water, but water and food to the body is the same as these questions that are going on in the adoptee's mind. It's like, if you don't get answers to these questions in a sensible way that you can make sense of, it will devastate any adoptee that I've seen, that I've experienced. That maybe you don't have these questions, maybe not, but I know from my experience, being denied of these questions, these simple basic questions that I had about my origins, my race, my ethnicity, were devastating to get denied of, and it made me want to kill myself. I'm just being honest. That's the way I feel. This is my experience, so I can only be real about what I experienced. So I hope you made it through this video. I'm gonna be a lot more positive in the next videos, but trauma is no joke. Adoption is no joke. It's not some bullshit. We're saving your life here, giving you love and opportunities, and don't be an ungrateful little shit. Just count your blessings, you spoiled asshole. Like, it's not how it works. It's not how any trauma works. It's not how any loss works. It's just not the way that the human the human experience is with loss. So I hope that if you get anything from this video, just understand that there is major trauma and loss that the adoptee doesn't even really understand, and it is your job as parents to understand this before you adopt. So I hope you understand that. Yeah.